Hi everyone, welcome back to Burnout Teachers. Today we will be discussing classism and early childhood education. I felt very strongly about creating this topic as our first topic to discuss because I myself am an early childhood educator that's worked primarily in Washington, D.C., but I'm currently now traveling and teaching English in different countries around the world. There is a stigma even within the education field related to teachers who are in early childhood as being looked down upon, as being looked at as less competent as a teacher or less educated or less capable as a member of a society. And I think the profession in general, when working with younger kids, the assumption is that you weren't able to rise to a higher profession, so you settled for early childhood. I really just want to caution people to really, if you have kids in early childhood centers, to really value those teachers because you don't understand how much work it is, especially to be with those young kids from like 7 in the morning, sometimes till like 6 or even later. It's a full-time job that requires a lot of attention, and also with the younger kids there's tantrums, there's diaper changing, there's feedings, there's playing, there's disagreements with other kids, there's educational activities, there's just so much that goes into it that of course that job should be valued just as much as any other job. I mean, most of the parents were amazing, but I did feel like there was definitely a relationship of like you're the help, like not really fully valuing the role that we as early childhood educators are playing in the child's development, and kind of like even coming into the classroom and kind of dismissing our presence and just kind of getting the kids. And it's just very odd because it's like we're with your kids all day, we have a relationship with them, and then for the parent to come and not really acknowledge us is just kind of crazy. And I'm just saying, like, it wasn't all the parents, it's just a few of them, and it was those few who kind of, I think, were also wrapped up in this very classist structure because they had these kind of high title jobs, and then they're coming to the school where we're taking care of their kids, and then suddenly it's like, oh, your title is low, so I don't have to treat you with respect. But really, that's part of the problem, because isn't our role of the utmost importance because we're educating your kids? And for me, I never saw early childhood education as just watching kids or just being with them, even though that's important as well, to just create a safe space of presence with that kid. But I always saw it as like having these meaningful conversations, learning through play, learning through doing different activities, having conversations with them about their home and about the things they like. And all those things are so meaningful because that grows a person's personality and their ability to interact and their ability to express themselves. And aren't those like the most important skills that you need to be able to navigate life even in your adult life? Even though I, have a master's degree and come from an educated family, a formally educated family, I felt as though I still wanted to be an early childhood educator, like just being with the young kids and also feeling the impact that I could have on them at a younger age, and also the fact that they were still so impressionable just really made me want to be in early childhood. And also, they're just so adorable and cute and just so open to life and raw in their reactions and in their approach to life. And I just loved being in that space around them because it also allowed me to, as an adult, to kind of like relive those moments of my childhood and to also kind of come back to that inner child in me, which I think is unfortunately lost in a lot of adults, and is so important for us to kind of come back to that just uninhibited nature of curiosity and learning and love for life and excitement that a lot of these young kids have. My mom taught me very early on, and my father, that respect for people regardless of their work is the most important thing. So I remember my mom always having very strong relationships with workers in the school. For instance, the people who clean, the people who work in the office, the security, and most of them were people of color. And my mom would always remind me, like, it is just as important for you to say hello to these people every day when you see them and acknowledge their contribution to your education. And so I think that that upbringing really impacted kind of my role of how I wanted to be an educator as well, because I didn't really determine what I would do in terms of my profession as something that was title driven. I always knew that it would come from a place of passion and what I truly felt like was my calling and what I love to do. My family members were like, oh, like you went to University of Michigan, like one of the top universities in the world, and how are you going to now work in a daycare? Like, why did you even go to school? And yes, I mean, the qualifications to be an early childhood educator in a lot of schools, specifically in DC, is like you only need like an associate's. But to me, that's not what I was focused on. I was focused on what can I bring to the classroom based on my experience, and all of the teachers' experiences, regardless of their educational background. They have unique lived and educational experience that benefits kids, and kids need to have exposures to different types of experiences and different education to be able to become well-rounded individuals and to be able to operate in our society. Because that's the reality. They're going to be interacting with people with different experiences, and to be able to be exposed to that at a young age, I think will give you the tools to be able to navigate life in an easier way. I come from an Arab American household where the people in my family, especially on my mom's side, they came to this country for education. So my grandparents on my mom's side, who are Egyptian, they got scholarships to come and study in the US and then became professors. And so obviously education was something that was very, very valued in my family. And it's also something that was that my grandparents sacrificed a lot for. And when they came to this country, they were treated, it was in the height of the Jim Crow era, so they were treated in a very marginalized way. So people were always asking them if they spoke English and kind of doubting their intelligence. So I think in that sense, I understand why, you know, education and the titles of like your job are important in my family. But what I don't like is those same structures that oppress immigrant people who move to this country and treat them in discriminatory ways are the same structures that create this classist framework that actually marginalizes people based on their work. And so I feel like always, as an early childhood educator, I was always looked down upon. I was always looked as if I didn't reach my full potential and I settled for something that was less than me. And I was always seen as like not really being successful or achieving anything because I wasn't a doctor or a lawyer. These classist structures really need to be broken down. And this is so much what is a part of the Burnout Teachers, is really bringing to light these social justice ideals in our everyday life. Really valuing people regardless of their profession. When you go to a restaurant, treating the workers with respect, saying hello. Like, these sound like very basic things, but you'd be surprised how people just do not have that basic decency level. And to me, these are the important types of lessons that I like to teach my kids and my students, because it's just those are the ways to create a more tolerant and open and beautiful society, when we all respect one another and we're all kind. And I think that judging somebody based on their work is just not fair, and it doesn't create an equitable society. So to be for social justice, it does not just mean like chanting these slogans and going to protests. It means acting in a certain way in your everyday life and how you interact with people and treating people with respect regardless of their words. and just create this safe space to really, hopefully these conversations can then lead to some type of change in which we can collectively implement some practices that can at the very least help our own mental health, but hopefully in the long run really change these really classist structures that exist in our society. And maybe we can't change it fully structurally in our society all at once, but at least we could start by each individual and maybe start on our school level, then maybe do it on a national level, in families, with students, and then maybe bring it more on a larger societal levels. I hope that this was a useful video for you, and I would love, just as I've shared my experience here, I'd love to hear what you've had to say. Even if you had a positive experience and have not experienced anything negative being an early childhood educator, I would love to hear about that too, just so we can all be aware of the diverse experiences that exist across the early childhood field. And to all the early childhood educators out there, you are so beautiful and important and valued, and the work that you're doing is recognized. Even if no one's telling you it, you're doing very important work, and it's just so beautiful to see that you show up for your kids every day. And I just want to say that I know how hard it is, and I think it's so beautiful that you've chosen to dedicate your life's purpose to educating these young kids and making them have loving and purposeful lives. So thank you so much for all the work you do, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say. Take care. Bye.